Hello everyone. Welcome to Confessions Jury, where Reddit's AITAH stories go on trial. Make sure to listen carefully and express your verdict in the comments section below. Moving on to the first case. Case 1. Am I the bad person for completely cutting my wife off from our finances because she wouldn't stop ordering takeout? I am 41 years old and male. My wife is 39 years old. My wife doesn't work due to a minor disability. It's not as if she cannot work, but she complains of discomfort and exhaustion all the time. The discussion over her working basically ended 5 years ago, and I have completely given up on the prospect of her ever having a job again, seeing as she doesn't even come close to qualifying for disability and brings in no income. We currently live entirely off my salary. I do not mind financially supporting her, but my wife's spending habits have gradually become more and more reckless. It began with her ordering takeout twice a week, and then that escalated into 3 times a week, and now she's ordering takeout nearly every day. This is all despite our fridge being stocked constantly. I do the shopping, and I make sure to even keep our freezer full of things she would only have to microwave. Last month was a particularly heavy one for her. She spent $1,176 on delivery apps alone. We cannot afford this. There were several days that she ordered twice. I may have reacted harshly, but on Friday, I pulled money out of our savings, completely paid off the card, and then canceled it. I then removed all the money from our joint account and funneled it into my own account. Apparently, my wife learned this when she tried to order takeout. She tried to call the company, who explained the card had been canceled. She texted me asking what had happened, and I responded that she was cut off. Well, when I walked in the door that evening, my wife was lying on the floor dramatically saying that she had low blood sugar. I told her she could eat any of the food we have in our fridge or freezer. I also noticed that she took the garbage out, probably for the first time in a decade. I'm surprised she even knew where the outdoor bin was. I can only assume she was disposing of the evidence of what she ate, as she was pretending to have not eaten. But I honestly don't care enough to dig through the garbage to find it. She was furious at me all weekend. Was what I did over the top? What do you think about this one? Lay down the hammer in the comments section, and let's move on to the second case. Case 2. I snooped on my wife's phone and discovered she lied about a work meeting and was likely with a former male coworker. Am I the bad person for snooping around? I caught my wife lying about having a late meeting after work, and it seems she was instead with a former male coworker. For the last couple months, she has been texting with her coworker often. It has mostly been about drama at her previous work, but I still find it suspicious that she stays in such close touch with him. They text almost every day. He used to give her a ride to work from the train station a few times each week, as he lived nearby the train station. A few weeks ago, I decided to look through her texts. In one message, he asked when she ended her work on Tuesdays, and he told her when his work ended. They planned a meeting for 3 days after our wedding. I was extra suspicious then, so I turned on the timeline feature of Google Maps on her phone, which maintains a map of where she goes. A day before the day they were planning to meet, she told me she would have a late meeting at work and asked if I could take her daughter to an after-school activity. The day following their scheduled meeting, I checked her phone when she was in the shower, and sure enough, she was never at her work that evening. She took a train to a nearby town where she used to work and had been there for a few hours. He lives in this town. I realize I invaded her privacy by looking through her messages, by making her phone track her location, and by checking her location history. But I had a bad feeling, and my intuition was right. She did in fact lie to me about her location, and then, based on our conversation, I assumed she met with her former coworker. Just 3 days after we married. She has always told me she has nothing to hide, and that I can use her phone anytime. Maybe I am being too controlling. Of course, we are two independent people with individual lives, and we don't have to give each other details of everywhere we go and everything we do. But she did tell me she was going to a work meeting, yet she did not go. So to me, that is a lie. And assuming she visited her former coworker, this was planned. I mean, if I told her I was going to go work in a cafe, and then I instead took a train to a nearby town, then met with a female friend, I would think she would feel insecure if she found out. Am I the bad person for snooping? Should I confront her? If so, how? Maybe ask her to show me her location history? I doubt she knows about the timeline feature. What about that? Who would you rule for? State down your ruling, and let's move on to our third case. Case 3. Am I the bad person for kicking out my girlfriend's friend and ignoring her messages? My girlfriend, 25F, and I, 25M, live in a small studio apartment. Her friend came to town to see her boyfriend, who's in the Navy, and happened to be on duty 5 minutes away from our apartment. The first night, my GF and I acted like their driver, since she's the only one who owns a car in town. We tried to be generous hosts, but I felt uncomfortable meeting the Navy guy as he was acting inappropriately, and this caused tension between my GF and I. They stayed at an Airbnb that night, but her friend still wanted to hang out with us until really late, and I had work the next day. The second night, she kept beating around the bush about going back to her hometown and dragged my GF around cluelessly until really late, and my GF had to let her use the car to see the Navy boyfriend just so we'll have a little time to breathe without her there. Her friend was being really pushy and wanted my GF to follow her around everywhere, even though my GF let her know that she was tired and I was uncomfortable with it. She even told my GF to lie to me so they could meet up with the guy. My GF and I were stressing out constantly because she refused to let us in on her plans and kept taking advantage of our kindness. That night, she ended up crashing at our small apartment, and I felt intruded as she did not ask me if I was fine with it. For the third night, she got an Airbnb with her boyfriend because we mentioned our discomfort due to the small space. At this rate, she was supposed to leave town already, as she told my GF the original plan was only for a day or two. However, the next morning, she told my GF she wanted to stay another night and did not mention anything about getting an Airbnb. My GF had to sneak into the bathroom to update me because she was around her 24/7 and we haven't had time to even be alone. I was unhappy with my GF for letting her friend take advantage of our apartment and car without considering our plans. When my GF honestly told her about the situation and asked her directly about her plans, the friend lied, saying there were no bus tickets home and she needed to stay another night. I checked and found available buses. When confronted, she booked a 4 a.m. bus for the next day, claiming she wanted to see her boyfriend again that night. She ended up asking my GF to pay for the ticket because she didn't have enough balance in her account. My GF also felt bad for her friend because she knows she's been financially struggling and hasn't paid for her car back at home. However, she also owes a lot of people, including my GF, money because she's been willingly unemployed and going on trips without proper planning. Suspecting another lie to guilt trip her way into staying, we said goodbye after dinner and ignored her messages the entire night until 3 a.m. She kept spamming my GF's phone with excuses just to get her to respond. But we were both mentally drained and wanted a moment alone. I was also exhausted from work, but I had to stay up until 3 a.m. with my GF and go downstairs to send her friend off. We decided to call her an Uber instead and ghosted her after that. Am I the bad person for kicking her out, not offering another night's stay, and ignoring her messages, knowing she likely lied about meeting her boyfriend to avoid her coming up and potentially staying another night? I don't know what to rule for. What do you guys think? Type your verdict in the comments section as we move on to our next case. Case 4. Am I the bad person for being upset with husband for his reaction to our son cheating? My son, Alex, 17, has been in a relationship with a girl named Jane, 17, from his school for the past 6 months or so. Jane is a very sweet girl, and I, 53, actually work with her mother at the local university. I honestly thought Alex and Jane were a great match, as they always seemed so happy together. It turns out I was mistaken because, for the past few weeks, Alex has been trying to get out of the relationship with her as he started having feelings for another girl. Needless to say, Alex ended up cheating on her, and now Jane has completely cut contact with him. When I found out yesterday, I was pretty upset with Alex, so I asked him to explain what happened and why he did this. According to Alex, he got tired of Jane and felt she was too clingy. He didn't want to break things off because that seemed messy and complicated. So instead, he tried ghosting her. For obvious reasons, this fell apart pretty quickly, and he mentally checked out of the relationship, which led to him cheating with a new girl and Jane cutting contact with him. I was very disappointed with how nonchalant he was about the whole thing, so I reprimanded him and told him that he would have to apologize to Jane at some point. I was undecided on whether or not to punish him, but I decided to wait for my husband, Tony, 55, to make that call. When Tony got home, I told him about Alex, and he didn't seem bothered. I asked him to speak with Alex about it, but he declined. Tony then literally said that as long as Alex continues to get good grades, take part in his extracurriculars, and isn't bothering people, we shouldn't worry about what he does at school. We argued about it, and he said that he'd be worried if Alex didn't get bored of that girl, since they were together for so long, and that this behavior is pretty standard for guys his age. I would have let that pass. But later that night, I heard Tony joking with Alex about how he was popular, etc. We argued again right before bed about that, and Tony thinks I'm upset about something trivial. In his words, am I the bad person? What do you think the fair ruling should be? You hold the power of judgment. State your ruling in the comments section below. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. In life, we may run, but we can never hide from true justice. Stay safe, everyone.